As a longtime Adobe Fresco user and someone that has made videos comparing Adobe Fresco and Procreate and explaining why I prefer Adobe Fresco is better than Procreate. Now I spent a long time responding to comments. A lot of those comments complaining about Adobe's subscription model and a lot of people thinking that Fresco was astronomically priced or like $10 a month or more. It's never been that way. If you had an iPad, you could go and download Adobe Fresco for free. And then if you wanted to import your own brushes or have access to a ton of the brushes that are available, you would have to get the premium version, which was $10 per year. But those days are over. Today, Adobe celebrated their 5th anniversary. And to celebrate, they have made Adobe Fresco completely free for everyone. You get all the features. You can import as many brushes as you want. You get access to all the brushes. Full premium version of Fresco, it's free. There's no subscription. You just get it. I'm just going to quickly talk about the main reasons why it's my preferred app of choice for the work that I do as a professional illustrator. And if you want to go into some more in-depth detail about all the different nuances, you can check out one of those videos after this. I will link those below. But just real quick, before I get into these reasons, I just want to preface this by saying this in no way means that I hate Adobe or Procreate, that I think Procreate sucks. I don't think Procreate sucks. I think Procreate is a fantastic app. I used Procreate for a really long time before I switched over to Adobe Fresco. In fact, I used it a whole bunch recently when I recreated my brush pack for Fresco and Photoshop and made a whole version for Procreate as well. So there it is. Procreate's great. But for me, Fresco does it all.
Maybe because you're an Adobe shill?
It honestly feels like an app that was sort of built around the kind of work that I do and the things that I need in my workflow. The first one, Fresco has the ability to work in both pixel and vector artwork. As an illustrator, every now and then, I have to deliver my artwork in vector format, whether it's for like some sort of branding or like illustration for packaging or something like that. There's different reasons, but in Fresco, I can work natively in vector brushes, just draw naturally, just like I am with the pixel brushes, and it makes its own vector layer. I can bring that into Illustrator. I can export a vector PDF. The fact that there's both pixel and vector in the workflow, I really like, because I can't sketch in vector brushes. Like I need that pencil feel, so I use like a pencil brush, sketch it all out, keep it loose. And then when I do my tighten up line work, I can do that straight in vector. I don't have to go to a different app. It's all right in here, ready to go. The second reason why I prefer Adobe Fresco is the really powerful motion tools that it has. I'm not a full-on animator by any sense of the word, but I do often get hired to create animated versions of my illustrations. These tend to be more kind of looping animations, but sometimes it is full-on animation. The reason why the motion tools in Adobe Fresco are so great is because each layer can have its own timeline. So what that means is you can very easily add things on as you go, or like change the speed of different things. For example, if you have a sky and you want some clouds slowly moving through, but then you want something to fly really fast across the screen, you could just have the clouds on their own layer, or they're moving slowly, and then the thing on the other layer, have that moving real fast, and then you get slow, fluffy clouds, and then pew! Super easy. Another really powerful motion feature that just makes everything so easy is you can combine frame by frame animation with a motion path. And I didn't even talk about motion paths. In Adobe Fresco, you can have something on a layer and then just draw a path, and then it'll follow that path. Any path you draw, it'll just follow it around. You can control the speed of how fast it goes along that path. You can even draw the path imitating the speed you want your object to follow it along. For example, if you were trying to make something bounce and you draw fast down and then slow up as it bounces down and then fast, fast. And then you could just say, use that as the speed, and it'll use that. Pretty crazy. But let's say you wanted something to be like a bird. That's the easiest example, flying across the screen, but you want to flap its wings. You just draw 3 frames where it's like this, this, and this, and then you're like, and then you got your bird just flapping, and then you draw a path, and then you got this flapper flapping across the whole scene. And then you can have multiples, scatter them, you could have a whole scene of Flappy Birds flying across the screen in a matter of seconds. And you don't even have to use a path for these features. Like if you just wanted some twinkling stars or something like that, you draw a little star, turn on the grow shrink, make it disappear, and then add a bunch of them, scatter them. Starry night. Instantly. These features make it so fast and efficient to just make your illustration come to life. And then another thing I love about Fresco is the way it interacts so seamlessly with a lot of the other Adobe apps. For example, I can be working on something in Fresco, then go over to my computer, open up Photoshop, that file's there, can make some changes, make some adjustments, go back to my iPad, and those changes are already made. This is super helpful as an illustrator when I'm working with clients and I get revisions or edits. I'm at my computer, they want me to adjust some colors, I just open up the file, it's right there. It's just automatically syncing between the two. Fresco files are actually Photoshop files, and that has other benefits as well, wherein any brush that you can use in Photoshop works right in Fresco. Just like my brush pack through Retro Supply Co. is made for Fresco and Photoshop because they use the same brushes. I often hear the argument that Procreate has a much bigger brush library, which is wild to hear because it's not true. Photoshop has been around since there were dinosaurs. Not literally, but it's been around for decades and decades and decades. And it's been like an industry standard that whole time. So the amount of brushes that have been made for Photoshop is just infinite. Any brush you could ever imagine, it's available for Photoshop. You just gotta go find it. There's also a really cool integration with the free Adobe Capture mobile app, where you can draw things on different layers in Fresco and then send them to Capture, which will allow you to make a seamless repeating pattern. You can also use Capture to make shapes that pull into Adobe Fresco, and you can use those shapes to then create vector artwork or pixel-based artwork from those shapes. Like you can take out your phone, take a picture of some texture, and then immediately turn that into a shape that you could use as vector art or pixel art in Adobe Fresco. That's pretty wild. There are plenty of other reasons why Fresco is like my go-to app, but I've talked about those in a few other videos. We'll link one here, links down below. You can check those out if you want to know more. I was at Adobe Max last week, got to hang out with the Fresco team, and they're all super nice people, really care about illustration and art and making the app as good as it can be. I was working with one of their developers and talking about different ideas I had, and they were really interested in how I use it and like making notes and coming up with some solutions for things that I want to do. So they're constantly trying to make the app better, and I really appreciate that. If you haven't checked out Adobe Fresco, now's a good time because it's completely free. All right, good talk. Apparently Dottie's gonna lick her butt when I'm trying to record. Thing on Fresco being crazy.